Hello and welcome to our class for week 11. This week we're going to be focusing on children's spirituality, specifically on pedagogy. So the agenda for this week is that we're going to start off with a visit from Marta Ceres, who is part of the education department, and she's going to talk to us about the Maryland State Teaching Certification. Then we're going to go over the SLO worksheet and the SLOPE proposal that are due this week. We're going to go over what you're going to be doing on the discussion board on children's spirituality. And we're going to go over the meditation technique number 11, which is on giving and receiving, and an overview of the homework. So, as I said before, Marta Ceres is going to meet with us this week. She is from the UMBC Department of Education, and she is going to talk to us about the Maryland State Teaching Certification. So how that process is going to work and what you're going to be asked to do after you complete this seminar and after you submit your teaching folio and you have completed with all of the requirements for the early childhood program. She has some handouts on the Maryland State Teaching Certification, which I've put on Blackboard for you, so you'll be able to find them there, and I'm sure she'll mention them and talk about them and sort of walk us through them in her presentation when we meet with her next week. So this week, we're going to be working on the SLO worksheet and the SLOPE proposal. For the SLO worksheet, which is this that you have right here on the left, you're going to highlight the student population that you're going to be working with, the learning content that you're going to be focusing on, the standards that you're going to be addressing, the learning interval, so the time frame that you're going to be working with the children, and then the baseline data and where you're going to be collecting that from in terms of knowing where your students start off from to then be able to gauge how much progress they've made at the end when you reassess them to see where they're ending up after your intervention. So that's the SLO worksheet. The SLOPE proposal is this one that you see here on your right. And for the SLOPE proposal, you're going to have a brief description of your SLO, so of the particular learning objective that you're going to be addressing in this project. You're going to talk about the instructional strategies that are typically associated with that particular objective, with that student learning objective at your school. So what are your teachers doing to help the children meet that objective? And then in 3, you're going to describe how your intervention, how your strategies are going to enhance the strategies that the teachers are already implementing. And for that, you need to cite 3 pieces of research that are supporting your intervention. So look for empirical research that is evidence-based, that proves that these strategies that you've selected have worked with similar populations of students previously. Reason why you're selecting to use them with the students that you are working with. Number 4 in the SLOPE proposal is to describe the strategies you'll use to differentiate learning experiences for students with diverse backgrounds, needs, learning styles, intelligences, linguistically diverse, and all these other characteristics. So include an explanation of how your differentiation strategy aligns with your instructional strategy. So how, if you are using a particular strategy to help them, say your content area is literacy, to help them improve reading, then how are you going to differentiate that strategy for the students that you are working with? And this can be a small group of students. It doesn't have to be the entire class. But within that small group of students, you might need to differentiate because one student might not necessarily have the same specific needs as the next in that small group. Number 5 is if you will alter the learning environment as a means of helping the students achieve that learning objective that you've selected, and why or why not. And in this case, in our case right now, because most of you are teaching virtually still, there might not be a lot that you can do with the virtual environment to change it, or there might be something that you are adding or changing or incorporating in order to help them particularly meet this learning objective. And the last point, point 6, is a rationale of why this intervention strategy is expected to improve student learning related to the objective. So why do you think these strategies that you selected are going to be the ones that are going to help them reach that learning objective? Okay, so let's get into children's spirituality, the topic of this week. So for this week, you are reading from my book, you're reading part 3. And then after reading that section of the book, think about what are your takeaways regarding what children's spirituality means for early childhood education as a field, and then what does that mean for early childhood educators in particular, so for teachers in particular. And you can focus on yourself. You can think about yourself as an early childhood educator or teacher, and what does children's spirituality then mean for you, and share those takeaways in the discussion board for this week. The other component, the other reading component for this week is from Tobin Hart's book, and part 2. And in this section of his book, he talks about what parents and teachers can do to nurture spirituality for children. So you're to select one pedagogical strategy offered by Hart in his book, or design one of your own inspired by the ones offered by Hart to support spirituality for the children in your particular internship site. So what could you implement in your site as a pedagogical strategy in order to support children's spirituality? And you're going to share this also in the discussion board. So the last thing we're doing this week is introducing meditation technique 11, which is focused on giving and receiving. It's 10 minutes as all the other meditation techniques that we've been introducing thus far. It's around the 10-minute mark. And this one in particular is based on Sokolov's Practicing Mindfulness, 75 Essential Meditations to Reduce Stress, Improve Mental Health, and Find Peace in the Everyday. In this book, he talks about a meditation that's about giving and receiving, and I have adapted that for us here. So you'll find that on Blackboard as well. So just to recap, the homework for this week is the readings are from Hart, Part 2, pages 147 to 271. From my book, Part 3, pages 113 to 140. Then work on the SLO worksheet and the SLOPE proposal and turn them in on Blackboard. And then on Blackboard as well, you'll find meditation technique number 11 for you to practice this week, that particular technique. And that is all. I hope you found this useful to guide you through what you need to do this week, and I will talk to you again soon.